All right, the preseason is officially underway now. We have football. Now, we're still not in the regular season, but we're at least not in the off season. The off season is dead. Those, long and footballless nights are finally over. And so I figured, let's talk some preseason. Some people say, who cares about preseason? I always find it fun, and there's always a ton of storylines you can look into heading into the preseason. So these are the top 10 things I am most excited to watch in this preseason. Number 10 is Tua. Now, I'm fascinated in seeing first if Tua will even play in this preseason, and if he does, how much will he play? But given the fact that the last we saw of Tua, the most recent we saw, was him having some really bad injuries and scary injuries, really. So it's more so just seeing if he still has it, seeing how those injuries have affected him. That's why I put him on the list here at 10. Hopefully everything's okay, but I'm definitely fascinated in seeing where he's currently at, and maybe we'll be able to figure that out just after a preseason game or two. Number 9, I'm going Aaron Rodgers, which people are going to say this is a surprise and this is way too low. How could Aaron Rodgers just be number 9? For one thing, pretty much any list, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the top 3 of. Usually, that's just kind of, how he works. He's always an interesting person to talk about. However, the reason why I just put him at 9 is I just don't know how much he's going to play in the preseason. He's typically isn't someone who plays a lot. Maybe he won't even play at all in this preseason. And also, it's like, I kind of expect him to just be good. And even if he's not, I'm not going to read that much into it. I would assume it's just one bad day or whatever. I don't really know what I'm going to actually see from Aaron Rodgers. So just seeing him in a new uniform is enough to put him on the list, but I couldn't put him any higher because I don't know how much is actually going to be gained from watching him, but am I going to watch him? Absolutely. Number 8, this is fascinating. It's always interesting seeing quarterback competitions, and the reality is I do think it's a very real possibility that whoever plays better, Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield, in the preseason probably will end up being the starting quarterback this season. So, again, how much does it matter being the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I don't know. But you know what? A lot of people are going to watch, a lot of people watch every game in the NFL. So who's going to be the quarterback for, one of those games every week? That's still a fascinating situation. I'm a Tampa Bay fan, so I'm more invested in this than most people are. But it's still definitely something I think is very interesting. Number 7 is another NFC South quarterback. Just one quarterback, though, Desmond Ridder, who, came in and I didn't think looked great in his very small sample size, although maybe not as bad as it might feel like on a surface level. He looked very raw. He looked like a third-round pick who kind of got thrust into the action and only played a few games. I was convinced Atlanta was going to look to move off of him, maybe trade up to get a quarterback, maybe just draft Will Levis or something like that. They decided no, they're going to keep Ridder. They added Taylor Heineke. I'm assuming there's a chance he plays as well. But for Ridder, we might know what his career is going to be just in the preseason. If he falls off and doesn't look good in the preseason, it might just be it for him. That might just be the end of it. Heineke starts and that's it. But if he plays well, maybe we could actually start to see him get some playing time and see what happens there. So I'm very fascinated in what Ridder can do. Number 6, give me Travon Walker. Travon Walker, the edge rusher for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was selected first overall, ahead of guys like Sauce Gardner, ahead of guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau. So far, he has not lived up to that draft hype. He just hasn't. Now, he was a very criticized first overall pick. I was one of his critics, right? I did not think he should have gone that highly. But the kind of the thing that I think a lot of his critics, including myself, said is that there is a chance he works. It's just going to be a project type situation. It's going to take him some time. And so for Walker, we're going to see how he looks year 2. What has he done technique-wise? Because we talk about him as a very raw player. Is he still just as raw here in year 2? Or has he actually shown some growth? And if he has, that could be potentially awesome for Jacksonville. Number 5, this is another very fascinating one, as it really kind of determines the Broncos' almost not just this season, but several seasons of how well Russell Wilson looks. And if he comes in and looks really good right away, you better buy some Broncos stock, because that could mean that perhaps Sean Payton has fixed Russell Wilson. Perhaps the Nathaniel Hackett thing was one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history, like Sean Payton had said. Maybe that's the situation. If he comes in and sucks, if Wilson comes in and sucks, well, now it's the complete opposite. Now it's like, man, this Broncos team, they don't have much draft capital. They're paying Wilson a ton of money for several years. This looks like a disaster. So, yeah. Definitely a lot riding on it. There's only so much we'll know in the preseason. Again, how much is he going to play? Another guy, though, that I'd be playing a lot if I was Denver. So he's here at 5. Number 4, Deshaun Watson, where, Wilson and Watson have gotten a ton of comparisons for very similar things. Obviously, Watson has the off-the-field stuff that, comparisons, there's no comparisons there. But in terms of, demanded a trade from their former teams, another team gave up a ton of draft capital and paid a ton of money for that player, and then they had disastrous first years with that new team. Watson, the reason why I have him a little bit higher on the list is I think we could learn more from him because he also played poorly in his very small sample size in the preseason last season. So if he plays well in the preseason, that would give me some hope if I'm a Browns fan that he could be back to being the old Deshaun Watson on the football field. Number 3, of course, Jordan Love has to be high up on this list. It feels like every preseason he's one of the guys we're all looking towards, seeing, okay, how is Jordan Love going to do? I don't know how he's going to do. There's still such a wild card with Jordan Love. We still know such little about him and how he plays. But that's why it's so fascinating of what's going to happen this preseason. How much will we learn? I don't know, but we'll learn some stuff. So he's here at 3. Number 2, I just went to rookies as one category. Obviously, all of the rookies, that's the main thing we're going to be looking at is all of those rookies. And so the reason why I make them their own category is if I didn't, then they'd be like half this list, if not more than half this list of just individual different rookies. But, all the quarterbacks, of course, are always fascinating. But even the non-quarterbacks are going to be interesting as well. I'm sure, I tend to make videos on preseason games. Rookies are always the main focuses of those. So usually rookies is always number 1 on this list, but this year I did not do that. Number 1 is the Niners quarterbacks. It just is. I mean, how well are these quarterbacks going to play? I'm so fascinated in seeing Trey Lance. What are we going to get out of him? How much are we going to see Brock Purdy? It still hasn't been announced officially who will be the starter. I think they should go Purdy, but we don't know if they should go Purdy. So the reality is, this is a team that, my podcast co-host Kyle predicted to win the Super Bowl. Okay, abrupt cut here as my power went out. So re-recording. Luckily, I was able to recover the video. Because I recorded right off my computer. But anyway, as I was saying about, championship caliber team, we don't know who their quarterback is. How could that not be incredibly fascinating and number 1 on the list? So, those are the top 10 things I am interested in. What about you? Let me know in the comments below. What are you most interested in for this preseason? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.